Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about a camera that I've been really impressed with over the past couple months shooting with, and that is the Olympus E-500. This is an 8 megapixel CCD sensor camera from 2005. And you might be thinking, why would anyone shoot with an older digital camera when there are so many good budget options? And this camera just offers something special, and I think you'll see why in a moment. This camera body with a 14-45, which is a 24-90 equivalent, and a 40-150, which is a 80-300 equivalent in full frame, with a spare battery and charger and 2 compact flash cards, cost me $150 on eBay. And I think that's an absolute steal for what this camera can do, especially if you're starting out on your journey as a photographer, or you're like me and you've been shooting for a long time and you just want something that kind of inspires you a little bit and something that's just different. So what led me to this camera to begin with is I've been a little obsessed with the Leica M8 and that camera's output, but I wanted something that would get me close to that look without the expense. And while the verdict is still out on, how close this camera gets to that look, the fact that this thing cost $150, I think it's an absolute steal. Just looking at the spec sheet alone, you would not be impressed though. This is, like I said, 8 megapixels. There's 3 autofocus points. There's no live view, so you've got to look through the optical viewfinder and then see your image on the back. So you've got to get your exposure right. It takes compact flash, so no SD cards. There's really only one dial up top, so not the best ergonomics and usability. But I don't think any of those things really matter, and here's why. First of all, I think 8 megapixels is plenty for social media and most printing that people are going to do. Not to mention, software can upscale images. 3 autofocus points might be a hang up for some people, but my first proper digital camera was a Canon 60D in like 2011 or 2012, and that camera I shot the same way that I shoot with this, center point AF, and then I focus and recompose. And I think shooting that way really teaches you to find your frame quickly and know what your composition is as you're seeing the world. You're not like with the A7. I can look through that EVF and it shows me pretty much spot on what my image is going to look like before I press the shutter. The AF on that camera that I'm shooting on now, it will 9 times out of 10 lock on and track, the right object that I want the camera to focus on. And, that's great for work purposes. And the A7 IV has been incredible for work as a tool. But when I'm just out doing photography for fun, sometimes those features kind of take away from just the act of capturing an image and making an image. And as someone who enjoys photography, I love the process as much as I love capturing the moment. Despite what could be seen as its drawbacks, the only thing that matters to me is ultimately how the images look, and that is 100% in part to what's inside of this camera, and that is the Kodak CCD sensor. To be completely honest, I wasn't blown away by the look of these images when I first got the camera. Just looking at the JPEGs, I wasn't impressed. And I didn't really see that CCD magic that I was looking for. You know, this camera also has quite a bit of a limited dynamic range. The highlights will blow quite quickly and are not recoverable in post. And if I had to compare it to anything, I guess it would be to shooting slide film if you have any experience with that. You just have to be careful with your exposure. But as I found out when getting these images into Lightroom and playing around with the raw was a completely different story. That's when I really started to see the power of this sensor and what it was capable of. Shadows you can push quite easily as long as you protect those highlights and be mindful of the limited dynamic range. You can get some really incredible results. And if I were to compare this to a modern CMOS sensor camera, well, I think you could get the colors close. I think there's just a different tonality when you have a limited dynamic range, and there's a different character to these older sensors that I think is quite special. I'm really curious to see how this stacks up against the Leica M8 when it comes in, you know, considering that's the camera that really pushed me towards this whole Kodak CCD fascination. Ultimately, this camera makes me want to go out and shoot. It makes me excited about getting back home and reviewing the images on a proper screen because this one is terrible. It's a bit like, you know, shooting film and costs a lot less. So I think anyone who is looking for, you know, something that's a little bit different, something that is going to be super fun to shoot with and just have a good time and not spend a lot of money doing so, definitely recommend picking up the Olympus E-500. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It would mean a ton to me. I've got a lot of great content coming that I think you guys are going to enjoy. And this has been my first YouTube video. So if you watched it all the way to the end, just again, thank you a ton. And let me know what, you know, your favorite cheap camera is if you have one. You know, what inspires you to get out and shoot. I think that's important. And I'm always looking for, you know, something that's going to give me that little bit of a push to go out and shoot every day. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Bye.